Good evening guys, I hope you're all well. Today I'm going to take you through the basic architecture for Skype for Business Server. Now I know it's been replaced in Office 365 by Teams, however a lot of organisations still have Skype on premises and it's still supported. Skype for Business Server 2019 for example is going to be supported for a good while yet. If you have it in your organisation, it's good to have an understanding of how it fits together, and that's what I'm going to cover here. It is a complex product with a lot of capability, so there is no way I'm going to get down into the detail in this 10-minute introduction. It should give you an idea of how the tiered architecture works, however. I'll cover the standard edition and enterprise edition models, and I will cover the disaster recovery models and high availability for voice traffic in a later video, so get subscribed if you want to see the follow-up to this. Anyway, let's get into it. So as I mentioned, Skype for Business runs on a tiered architecture, and there are different versions available depending on the high availability that you want. What I'm going to do first is just take you through the architecture of a standard edition. Now this is just the basic configuration of Skype for Business and what you need if you just want to provide a decent service to your users. So let's look at each particular tier. First then, we're going to look at what needs to be in place before we can actually go about deploying our topology. Well, the basic thing that we need in place is an Active Directory domain. You have to have a domain to install this technology into. The next thing you're going to need is a PKI, or a public key infrastructure, or certificate authority. Now, in the topology that I've shown here, the PKI is separate from the domain controller. I've assumed that we're using the Windows PKI for this purpose. Next then, let's move on to the tier 1. So this is where all your core infrastructure and all your core functionalities come from. What we've added here is a Skype for Business server. Now that is a single standard edition server, and alongside it I have an Office Web Apps or an Office Online server. Now the Skype for Business server itself is the thing that provides you all the core functionality. That's your instant messaging, your presence, your conferencing, even things like your mediation server role for connectivity to voice services, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. So at the very basic, just having this server in place will give you all that internal Skype for Business functionality. It won't give you telephony on its own, and it won't give you external access or mobile devices either. So let's look at the next layer, and the next layer really is around providing that bridge to the internet, which gives you connectivity from anywhere. So what we have in place now is a Skype for Business Access Edge server and a reverse proxy of some sort. Now the Skype for Business Access Edge server is effectively your Skype client proxy between the Skype for Business Standard Edition server and wherever your clients are connecting from. So if your clients are out on the internet or they're trying to use their mobile phone, all the SIP traffic and the Skype traffic will go via that Access Edge server. Now it is also important that you have this reverse proxy in there as well, because a reverse proxy gives access to the web services that are located on the Skype for Business front end server. And that covers things like your address book service and also access to things like conferencing. So at a very basic level, that is our Skype for Business architecture. It is not as complex as most people seem to think it is, although don't get me wrong, configuring this and getting it working well, that can take you a little while to get it correct. So what have we got in place so far? The architecture we have just gone through, well, it'll give you instant messaging and presence, peer-to-peer and multi-party voice, video, screen sharing, application sharing. It'll also give you remote access and connectivity from mobile devices. What it won't give you is any form of telephony at this point, nor will it give you any form of high availability. Let's look at how we could introduce telephony into this architecture. Okay, so for telephony, firstly, we need a method of getting to our PSTN service. So let's assume that we've got our PSTN service over here on the left. So we need a method of connecting our Skype for Business infrastructure to that PSTN service. What we need, well, we need to put a session border controller or voice gateway between our telephony service and Skype for Business. So what we have in place now is our session border controller. Now there's various SBCs available from the likes of Audio Codes and Sonos, or Ribbon as they're known as now. And what that does is acts as a bridge between the telephony world and your Skype for Business architecture. In this model here, I've got a straight connection to our Skype for Business front-end server. That's actually connecting to the mediation role on that server, and to the left we have it connecting to our telephony provider. That could either be over an ISDN E1 or it could be over a SIP service. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this explanation. Now, one thing I will say is that if you are looking to migrate from an existing PBX, there are considerations around where you place that SBC, and it's valid for most PBX migrations, not just for Skype, so perhaps I'll cover that in a separate video. But at this point, with that SBC in place, with a connection to our telephony service and a connection to our Skype for Business architecture, with the appropriate level of configuration, of course, we will now be able to make and receive phone calls. If you have ever deployed or know Skype for Business to any great level, you'll know that what I've just shown you is only the beginning of what you need to do to get this stuff deployed. Remember, I'm just trying to give you an overview of what the architecture looks like here. There's a lot more to it and a lot more questions you need to ask and understand the answers to before you can properly understand either what's in place or decide what to deploy. Let's move on and let's look at how you would add high availability to this Skype infrastructure, as I think the high availability options are where a lot of the confusion starts to set in. What we're going to do now then is look at how we provide a level of high availability at every one of these tiers, and we do that by moving to the Enterprise edition of the product. So let's look at each tier and I'll explain the differences between that and the Standard edition, which is what we started looking at earlier. Let's start with the supporting architecture then. So there are two key differences here. First, we need an SQL backend to act as the SQL database server for our pool databases. Because we're going to have multiple servers in our pool, we need a central point of reference for all our pool servers. In addition, we also need some highly available file storage, and that covers things like your web conferencing data and everything to do with your kind of web services associated to the pool. Now, I've assumed that we have an SQL cluster and also some form of highly available file share storage there. So let's move on. We'll have a look at the tier 1, which is our functionality layer. This is where it gets interesting because you'll notice that we've gone from one Skype for Business server to 3. Now, I'm not going to get into the detail as to why we go from 1 to 3 because it would take quite a while to explain, but that is the best model. You typically don't want a 2-server pool. You'll also notice that we have 2 Office web apps or Office Online servers over there on the right. Now, Office Online server or Office web apps, the way you make that highly available is just by having multiple nodes and load balancing them. So that's what I've done there. I've put a HTTPS load balancer in front of those 2 units. Now, Skype for Business server itself actually uses DNS load balancing for everything bar the web services. So for web services, if you want those to be highly available on your front-end collection as well, you need to load balance the HTTPS connections into that pool, just like that. Now, what we have now is 3 servers acting as one pool. So if one of those servers fails, the other servers will pick up the functionalities of that server. Same goes for your Office web apps. If one of those units fails, your load balancer should direct all the traffic to the one surviving unit. So let's move on. We'll have a look at the Access Edge tier now. For this tier then, the way we provide high availability for the Access Edge nodes is just by having multiple Access Edge servers. They are DNS load balanced, so we don't need a load balancer for those particular pieces. Now, for the reverse proxy, depending on what reverse proxy product you choose, you might have to use a load balancer in front of those. But that is essentially how we obtain a highly available service for Skype for Business. Now, in terms of telephony, the way you achieve high availability for that is simply by having multiple SBCs in place. That will give you multiple routes to your telephony service. That's probably a little bit beyond the scope of this demo here because that piece can get quite complex. There's also a piece around disaster recovery that can also get quite complex. And if I get the time, I will follow this video up just explaining how disaster recovery works as well. But what we've done, we've gone from starting from a single standard edition server and moved up to an enterprise edition architecture. I hope you found that useful, although I did tell you there's a lot to it. It is a complex product, but then it has an absolute ton of capability in it. There's several options on how you deploy, and I haven't covered them all here. However, hopefully it's given you an idea of what the basic architecture looks like, to a point. If you found this useful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. If not, well, I can only assume your name is Kevin Saunders. Any questions, drop a comment below and I'll see if I can help. I'll post up the follow-up on DR and high availability for voice over the next week or so. So hit that subscribe button if you want to catch those. Till next time.